Hey everybody, so it's time for another draft prospect profile here, and today we are going to be looking at the top-ranked European player in this year's NHL Draft. It's a Swedish forward by the name of William Eklund, and a guy that I am really excited to see when he does make that step to the NHL, and really excited to see where he gets drafted in this year's draft, because there's a lot to like with Eklund. So before we get into it, I just ask you to please subscribe and hit that thumbs up if you haven't. Helps the channel so much and is greatly appreciated. But let's get looking at it here. William Eklund is a forward coming out of Sweden, played last year in the SHL. He is a center / left wing. He played left wing in the SHL last season, but he projects to be a center in the NHL. And when he was playing juniors, he was a center. So it gives you some versatility up front. A guy that can play down the middle or on the wing and is comfortable in both positions. So that's a little added bonus there here with Eklund. Smaller guy, 5'10", 172 pounds. Size-wise, very much like Lucas Raymond was last year, who went 4th overall. Mitch Marner type size from William Eklund. Not necessarily a Mitch Marner type player, but Mitch Marner size from William Eklund. Again, he played pro hockey against men last season in the Swedish league. 40 games played, 11 goals, 12 assists for 23 points and a -2 rating. And that is a big point total for a teenager playing in the SHL. The SHL is not a development league. That is the top pro league in Sweden, and it is often very hard for young players to get ice time there and put up big numbers there. William Eklund did not have any problem playing and getting ice time and putting up points. 23 points in 40 games is very impressive for a 17/18-year-old. So that's exciting to see for sure. I have him ranked number 4 in this year's draft. Obviously, he is a highly touted prospect and the top-ranked European player in this year's draft by many. The average ranking among the 5 rankings that I used to come up with some sort of average has him at 3.6. And there is talk that Buffalo is very, very high on Eklund and may make him the number 1 overall pick in this year's draft. So he could go 1 overall. Between Bob McKenzie, Craig Button, Sportsnet, Elite Prospects, and McKean's Hockey, the average ranking between them is 3.6, so I have him right around there at number 4. There's a lot to like. There are a few questions, but there's a lot to like here with Eklund. His hockey IQ and just his IQ in general is through the roof. He's an incredibly smart player, and he uses that to his advantage to kind of make up for some of the physical skills that he may not have. He makes up for it with his smarts. He knows where to be on the ice. He reads defenses. He knows, where to put the puck and how to get the puck where it needs to be. And, using that intelligence really helps him make up for the things that he may not just be able to do out of pure talent on the ice. He makes up for it using his brain. He's an extremely hard-working player. He's been talked about as maybe the hardest working player in this entire draft. Just somebody who has a high motor, is always going, always at high effort, and really putting it and leaving it all out there on the ice. And that is obviously great to see. Teams are really, really going to like that. And, that's a trait that is going to make a lot of coaches happy. Somebody who's always hardworking and high effort. Those are the guys that you want on your team. You don't want players that get lazy or maybe aren't there 100% all the time. You do not have to worry about that with William Eklund. And he is a 200-foot player with the best of them. This guy does not slack defensively. He's very, very good defensively. And again, I think that high hockey IQ has a lot to do with him being a very mature player in his own zone already as an 18-year-old. But that's, again, huge because a lot of times defense isn't always there with younger players, and that's something they kind of have to learn as they go along. Not the case here. He is a full 200-foot player, great at both ends of the ice, and the epitome of what you would call a two-way forward. Now, obviously, there are some questions heading into this draft with Eklund. Size is obviously something that is brought up. Now, again, the modern NHL has proven that smaller players can play and be elite players in the modern NHL. And 5'10", 172 is definitely on the smaller side, but not like he's, 5'7", 150 out there or something like that. So I don't think size is going to be too big of an issue, especially since he knows, how to make that not an issue for him and work around that as a player and do other things that can, make that size not such of a problem out there on the ice. The other thing is that his overall speed and skating in general is kind of looked at as good and not great. He doesn't have super fast straight line speed. He's a player that kind of likes to slow the play down, but he is extremely agile, and his edge work is looked at as being at an elite level edge work. So he's good in tight spaces. He's an agile player. He can use, that to kind of get away from defenders, but his straight line speed is good, but it's not at a super high level. So that is, again, something that, he kind of has to work around, and he has learned to work around so far in his career. So by no means, just a perfect player. There are areas of his game that he needs to work on, but heck, he's 18 years old, and honestly, it's looking like he might be the most NHL ready right now out of anyone available in this draft. And again, there's been a lot of talk that there's a possibility that nobody from this draft plays right away in the NHL, that everybody has areas of their game that they need to work on and may need more or do need more development time. He might do another year in the SHL before, coming over, but if anybody in this draft is going to play right away, I would bet that Eklund would be probably the top of that list. But again, I think he maybe could use one more year of development in playing over in Sweden before coming over, but we'll see what he decides to do and what the team that drafts him decides to do. But he is very, very close to being NHL ready. And again, he played pro last season in Sweden, which is probably the third best league in the world as far as pro leagues go. You've got obviously the NHL, the KHL is number 2, SHL is probably number 3. So he was playing very high level hockey last year. As far as an NHL comparison goes, everything I've seen has been comparing him to Henrik Zetterberg, and that's not necessarily saying that he's going to be as good as Zetterberg, but stylistically, his style of play, he's a two-way forward. He doesn't have blazing speed, but he has, a lot of other tools at his disposal that he uses to make up for that. And just everyone's been talking about him being a very Zetterberg-like player. So definitely that is a great guy to be compared to if you're a young prospect coming into the league. And I think whatever team drafts Eklund is going to be very, very happy. And it seems like he's one of the more sure bets in this draft. There's not a lot in this draft that I think are, guarantees. I think there's a lot of guys who have very, very high-end potential, but also have some question marks in there. Eklund, I think, is at the very least going to be a 50-point two-way forward at the NHL level, which would make a great second-line center on any team. So, I think as far as a sure bet goes, Eklund, you're guaranteed to get at least a second-line center who can play at both ends of the ice, and the upside there potentially could be even higher to maybe like a 70 to 80-point player who, again, brings a high-level defensive game as well. So, if you draft William Eklund, you're pretty confident that you're going to get a very good player here and possibly a great player. If he develops and properly and becomes what he can be at his peak. But That is William Eklund, Swedish forward coming out of the SHL, and I think whatever team gets him is going to end up being very, very happy. It looks like he is going to be a very, very strong two-way forward in the NHL. Can't wait to see what he looks like and can't wait to see who he gets drafted by on Friday night. So with that, like, comment, share, subscribe, follow on social media. All those links are down in the description. If you'd like to further support the channel, the links to our Patreon merchandise store, donation link, and channel memberships are in the description as well. Keep spreading the word about this channel. Let's keep this thing growing. Thank you very much for watching. Hope you enjoyed the video, and I'll talk to you guys soon.